I think today's guest gives an absolutely new and enhanced meaning to the word persistence. I had so much optimism and hope speaking with Samantha Miller, the co-founder and CEO of Cadence OTC, because she is not going to quit. And even if she has to take a circuitous route to get to her end game, it seems like she's really going to do it.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about the conversation is we often talk about momentum and trends. And what Samantha's trying to do is to get the first combination oral contraceptive over the counter. For the idea being greater accessibility, you don't need to go to a physician to get the prescription. And all of the momentum was in her favor. We've already gotten approved and on the marketplace, the progestin-only product. All of the leading medical organizations, including ACOG, are pushing for this. Everybody is focused on having more options to prevent unplanned pregnancies. And yet, with all that, she's been at this 10 years, and the product still isn't approved.
Well, let's hear her story and her plan going forward. Welcome to the Business of the V. Hello, friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Alyssa Dweck.
And I'm Rachel Braun-Scherl. Each week, we bring you the most fascinating investors, inventors, entrepreneurs, academics, and healthcare practitioners who are making things happen in women's sexual and reproductive health.
If you are a woman, know a woman, have a business, or care about your V health and wellness, fasten your seatbelts and listen in to another informative and inspiring episode.
We are so excited to have our guest today, who's an entrepreneur I've known a long time, Samantha Miller, who is the co-founder and CEO of Cadence OTC. Welcome. We are so excited to see you and be able to catch up on all the goings on at Cadence.
It's great to be here, Rachel, Alyssa. Love your podcast. I've learned so much.
Thank you so much. So let's jump right in. Tell us what the original intent of Cadence is. And, you've, like many entrepreneurs, have had to make a number of pivots and work on the balls of your feet. So tell us what it is, what problem you're solving, what products you're offering.
Absolutely. So the original intent was very narrow. It was move the most popular form of female birth control over the counter in order to make a dent, reduce unintended pregnancy. And that's been a long, tough road, and we are still determined to do it. But that was the narrow focus that we started with.
And for people who don't know what the most popular form of oral contraception is, can you share what that is?
The pill, which is
a particular one.
The combined estrogen progestin pill is the most popular form. Always has been.
I find it so interesting to watch the evolution of popularity of the combination pill, or all pills for that matter, because if you were to go just, let's say, on TikTok, you would think it was cyanide that we're trying to, recommend for people. So with that said, I do feel like there's been one huge milestone, which is the over-the-counter availability now of the progesterone-only pill.
Yes.
So that is a huge milestone. What are the hurdles that you feel like you're going to face with the combination pill, which of course contains estrogen and a progesterone or progestin? But now, in light of the fact that the FDA has now removed the black box warning from, menopausal estrogen containing products.
Yes. Well, we've been at this for 10 years, so we know what all the hurdles are. And the concern is that there are contraindications for the pill, and there's really no significant contraindications for the progestin-only pill, but for the regular birth control pill, there are several contraindications, which, as you know, are rare in fertility age women, but it's incredibly important to communicate these clearly and impactfully with an over-the-counter product. And we've been doing label development, packaging development towards this goal for many years. We've done an enormous amount of consumer testing, 45 studies, 6,000 women, with different versions of our packaging and labeling. And it's pretty clear that we're communicating this information better than these women normally get from in a prescription setting, because we are communicating directly to the consumer, and not through this kind of indirect form. So,
But just to jump in for a second,
Yeah.
Samantha, for people who are listening, when you are taking a product from a prescription to an OTC status, one of the primary requirements or concerns of the FDA, as you know, I'm not saying this to you, but maybe to people who are listening, is that the average person, then the thousands of people that you studied, will understand the label, they will comprehend it, they will understand the instructions for use, and that they are very unlikely to dose or take it incorrectly. So people understand. I mean, these products have been on the market for decades. And as Alyssa referred early on, you know, the social media pushback against oral contraception, as I understand it, has been almost entirely driven by influencers as opposed to healthcare practitioners.
Yes, that's my observation as well. And interestingly, the sales of oral contraceptives have not decreased. So while there's so much noise about safety concerns, the use of it has continued full force.
What is the expression? Listen to what, to watch what I do, not what I say. I mean, to really understand choices, we have to look at how patients and consumers are actually behaving. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First, I mean, I understand that if you're doing a label for anything these days, it has to almost be like on a fifth grade level. So I want you to confirm that for me. Second, what is the main hurdle? Is it just lobbying the FDA? Is it doing studies that are going to be convincing? Because as we know, those take quite a long time. And so I'm just kind of curious if you can share your plan in 3 sentences or less.
Yes, happy to. And yes, that's true. We do need to communicate at a fifth grade level, approximately. We always include low health literacy populations in all of our consumer testing. And we also, with this product, need to include adolescents as young as, if you would believe it, 11, 12, 13, 14 in our consumer studies. And our labeling and packaging has been testing very, very well with both of those populations. In terms of the hurdles, interestingly, there's been an enormous amount of lobbying for the OTC pill for the past decades. And it was really started by ACOG, the American College of OBGYN, which has been, so supportive and ethical about advocating strongly for the pill to go OTC because of their desire to reduce unintended pregnancy. Yeah. They have studied it and analyzed it and determined that this is a safe and effective way to reduce unintended pregnancy. And then many other medical organizations have gotten on board with that, and they've been pushing the FDA. And then there's various public health organizations and there's Congress. So they've had a lot of lobbying. It really hasn't moved them, probably had a positive effect, but the real hurdle is the test results. And from the beginning, the FDA wanted us to involve technology in our label. They have a new program called the Additional Condition for Non-Prescription Use Program, and they want to incorporate technology into over-the-counter products. All of the experts resisted that, were advising us against that because the regulatory guidance was not fully formed.
And what does that technology look like when people say they want you to include technology?
Yeah, so what it looks like for us is we have a web-based app. So you can go to our web-based app either through a URL or through a QR code on our package, on any of our materials, And it walks you through the product, most importantly, walks you through any possible contraindications in a very user-friendly way. And it's turned out to be, very easy to use, very educational. The more challenging issue with the technology is that the FDA wants it to be mandatory rather than voluntary, which means that there has to be an interface with the retailer that confirms that you passed the questionnaire. That's going to be complicating and could provide a barrier. So that's kind of TBD. In the meantime, though, we did an enormous amount of testing, development and testing without the technology, and actually got very strong results. But the FDA still was not satisfied, and therefore we have developed this app. We call it the Xena app because our product is called Xena, and that's working very well.
Here's today's hot flash. Roughly 10 to 11 million people in the US use oral contraceptive pills, and that represents about 12 to 15% of women aged 15 to 49. I hate to sound like the skeptic, but I typically sort of am. So I'm just wondering if the real hurdle is price. Obviously, if these are over the counter, how is that going to affect the bottom line for the pharmaceutical companies that are producing these, including the generic varieties? Is that accurate, or really I'm barking up the wrong tree?
Well, so just my background is in the pharmaceutical industry. My background is in both life sciences and business. I've been in the pharma industry all of my career, which is a long time. And for the first half of my career, my job was to form collaborations and deals with big pharma. So I know the industry well, and I can tell you that primary care is not a priority for big pharma. Women's health is not a priority, and over-the-counter is not a priority. None of these things are a priority for big pharma. They just have such big capital structures that they need to go for blockbuster, high-priced products. Yeah. So that's why when we tried to enter this field, we recognized that there was a barrier to entry. You can't start an over-the-counter switch unless you own the rights to an original prescription product. So you can't do it with a new product or with a generic product. And at that time, there were only 4 companies in the world that owned those rights that would give us an appropriate product for the first-in-class switch. And that's why they brought me into Cadence, is my ability to acquire those rights, which I did acquire the rights from Pfizer to 2 ideal products for first-in-class switch. And so, you're asking, is the pharmaceutical companies wanting to block this? It's possible that there's a couple of them that are still making enough money on prescription birth control pills that they may want to block this. I don't have any evidence for that. However, most pharmaceutical companies do not care.
So you had talked about this, so it's taken 10 years, and I've been in the field long enough, as have you, to look back 20 years when there was no appetite to do this switch. And then, things have changed, and we would have hoped that the first switch of the progestin-only product would have accelerated the approval of your switch. So you have a business. You've had a specific goal, but in the interim, you've had to keep going. So you've had to come up with some very clever strategic ways to identify customers, to generate revenue, hopefully to bring in people with other products that might in the future be customers for your product. So talk a little bit about that and how you made some of those decisions and what you've been offering, because you're still alive and kicking, which is something really to be proud of, given what your original mission is, and you're still at that 10 years later.
Well said, Rachel. I would love to talk about that. So many entrepreneurs end up saying, if I knew how hard this would be and how long it would take, I would have never started. That is a common refrain. And And of course, that's true here as well. We had no idea it would be so long. So, one of the things that we did kind of just in time is realize that we needed to create a sustainable business and that there were easier ways that we could increase access to contraceptives and women's health products that did not have a big regulatory barrier, and that we could do in parallel with continuing our fight for the OTC pill. So we did that. We recognized that there was an access problem with the morning after pill, with Plan B, and that there are about 7,000 zip codes in the US that are considered pharmacy deserts. And there's about 20 million women of reproductive age living in those zip codes. So in my background being, in partnering, we did a partnership with the only major healthcare distributor to the convenience channel. And we were able to develop a new emergency contraceptive and get it into convenience stores. That has gone well. And, I'm very proud of our team. We have it now in about 20,000 convenience stores across the country. It's in many pharmacy deserts. We know exactly where the pharmacy deserts are. So we feel like we're making an impact there. And of course, we're making revenue there as well. We also introduced an early sensitive pregnancy test to go along with it, because most convenience stores didn't carry pregnancy tests either. And often you need one with your morning after pill. And then most recently, we introduced a new emergency relief kit for UTI, for urinary tract infection. That was another idea that came from me based on my history with UTI and my experimentation with the various possible combinations of products. So we hope that that is helpful and will increase access as well. With both the morning after pill and the UTI product, they're both so urgent and time is so important that we really want them to be in convenience stores nearby. Long hours matter with both these products.
Yeah, I think this is genius, particularly if I'm not hallucinating. I believe I saw that you can even DoorDash or Uber Eats your products from these convenience stores, which again, super convenient and definitely increases access. The
Yes,
doctor
in fact,
and me,
to mention on that, we're the #1 product on 7NOW.
yeah, which does not surprise me.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, again, putting my doctor hat on, what is the follow-up, or at least the follow-up instruction for people taking these convenient products on their own without necessarily speaking to anybody in the healthcare world other than maybe, Dr. Google or ChatGPT or whatnot? Is there anything, or are there instructions on the products themselves on do this if?
Yes, there is actually. Our UTI kit we have a partnership with a telemedicine company, and it has a QR code that says that if your symptoms persist for 1 or 2 days, you need to get to your physician immediately and get a consultation and probably a prescription for antibiotics. And if you don't have a close relationship that can help you, then go through our QR code to our telemedicine partner, and you can get a consultation and a prescription sent to any pharmacy in the country within 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah. One other question. Oh, I'm so sorry, but on your labeling, there's something about no expiration guarantee. What does that mean? I've never seen that before, and it really piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, so that's our effort to encourage people to have these products on hand, to buy them in advance, which people rarely do. And part of that is saying, look, if you buy it in advance and you don't need it and it expires, we will replace it for free.
Wow.
So you're not actually risking dollars long term to buy it in advance.
There's so many things in what you just said, like just for people who are interested in this space. What you did is you took a product that it's basically the same actual formulation of other products that are available, and you're differentiating yourselves with a distribution channel, which is extremely cool. And for people who are interested in this stuff, you know, when emergency contraception was first made available, it also required a prescription before it went over the counter. So you would think that would also help in this effort to get it switched. But one of the things from, you know, Alyssa likes to go deep into the medicine, and I'm always amazed by the creativity of business solutions. You're offering products or versions of products that exist, and what you're not differentiating on necessarily, you're not making different claims. Lots of, you know, these products all can make the same claims, but you figured out a way to start to reach your customer before she might need, you know, the ultimate product that you built the company around. So before we close, just give us a sense of what is sort of the biggest learning. You've been at this 10 years. You've come up with really creative solutions to keep the business going. We've all been in the space long enough to observe companies that have hit hurdles and shut their doors, and you've continued to plow ahead. What's the one piece of advice? And I know there's much more that you can offer. What's a piece of advice that you can offer to entrepreneurs who keep hitting their head against the same brick wall?
Well, I would say that, you know, when you're early on in your company and in your path, you don't want to think about contingency plans where your timeline and your cost is 3x what you expect.
You don't want to think about a plan B, all puns intended.
You don't want to think about that. But if you look at the statistics, actually most companies end up in that situation. And if you think about plan B, if you think about plan C, then you can prepare for it. And preparing for it might look like developing sort of more incremental products and improvements that are easier to commercialize, that create a more sustainable business model that's less dependent on investment and venture capital. So that's what we've done, and we did it early enough to make it work.
Well, that is awesome. We are so excited. We'll be waiting and anticipating. I'm not going to ask you to predict when you're going to get approval, because I'm sure that game has become old at this point, but we will be hoping that soon there will be another oral contraceptive option available for people on the marketplace. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing and for taking the time to speak with us today.
It's
Great to meet you,
talk to you
Samantha.
guys, and I'll come back on once we make more progress.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
We'll hold you to it. Have a great day.
Take care.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast at businessofthev.com for the latest trends and trendsetters in women's health and business.